Hey, can you hear me, man?
I can hear you.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Right. How you doing?
Oh, hanging in
Right.
there, brother.
It's just we just it's weird. It's like not you. Everyone's feeling fine except for the people who aren't, and they're not feeling
Right.
fine. And everyone else is like trying to, all this frustration is coming out in these riots in the streets. And I get it. And I'm feeling it too. I mean, whoever thought that getting a haircut would be an essential service? But about 2 months in, I'm like, I got to cut my own hair.
I know, man. My wife's yelling at me. She's like, "You got your son's graduation tomorrow, getting pictures." I'm like, "Well, what do I'm just, at least 20 years from now, I'll remember that I had this freaky hair because of COVID." So.
Yeah, well, I just took the doggy shears to him. I just like
Oh,
put
you
on the
did?
big fork, went,
Looks good, man.
and
Funny.
yeah, it worked okay.
Very cool. So your son, where's he graduating from?
He's graduating from upstate college called Oneonta in New
Oh
York.
yeah, Oneonta. Yeah, yeah.
And he's graduating with a biology major, and he's big into fitness, so he's probably gonna do like a trainer kind of thing. He's doing actually training right now, but he's probably gonna end up being that for real.
Oh, okay, very
Real
cool.
life.
That's I think Oneonta. I know. Geez, is that on the lake, or is that? I mean, am I thinking Oswego? Maybe.
That's Oswego. 70 miles to the west of Albany is where Oneonta is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually a Lake Oswego, isn't there? I think so.
Yeah, I think because I had a guy I worked with that went to the university there, and they claimed to founded the wings, the hot wings.
I thought that was Buffalo.
Yeah, everybody kind of claims it, so who knows?
I found a great recipe for that, but it works better with thighs instead of wings.
Oh.
Because you got more meat and it's a little softer.
Oh.
And oh my God, it's a killer recipe. It's fantastic. I'm like writing a cookbook slowly.
Are you?
And
Very
look,
cool.
I've been divorced, and when you get divorced, you're thrust out of the kitchen that you've been cooking in. All of a sudden, you're on your own, right? So you got to get your own. You got to get the new spices. You got to get the new pots and pans. You got to get the new silverware, and then you need to know what to cook. And so the way I got it figured is that there are probably about half of us have gone through that. Probably like 75% of us. So it would be good for the next 75% coming down the pike that help them out.
That's a pretty cool angle to think about, though.
Yeah, it's called The New Bachelor's Guide to the Kitchen. So
that's cool. That's funny. Yeah, that's hysterical. Now, did you cook prior to it, or were you?
I've been cooking since I was 12.
Oh, so you're not? Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'm literally saying, okay, I'm a pro. I know how to do this.
Right.
I moved out of my house. I started my own kitchen, and this is what I got.
I got you. Very funny. Now, where do you live? Are you in?
I'm in Sag Harbor, which is in the middle of the Hamptons.
Oh, okay. Oh, beautiful. Very nice.
Southampton to the west, East Hampton to the east, and we're right in the middle it's really cool. It's like a very thin fork. So it's about 10 miles to the ocean and about a half mile to the bay.
Oh, wow.
So
you're
I can race sailboats on the afternoon and go surfing the next morning.
And you're a bachelor, so what else? Why not?
But I'm starting this website, and social media is in the city, so that's about 70 miles away. And our team is dispersed between Connecticut, New Jersey, and Long Island, and Westchester, New York. So we figured the hub's going to be somewhere between the very North Shore, west end of Long Island, or maybe around New Rochelle, which is Iona College, roughly speaking.
Yeah, New Rochelle there, yeah.
Yeah. So New Rochelle is famous now for being like the hub of one of the COVID disasters.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, there were tons of them there, and that was the first place that our wonderful governor decided to put the COVID patients right into the nursing home. So the most susceptible population, he plops them right in the middle, and the homes weren't even allowed to test these new patients coming in to find out if they had COVID.
And it's crazy. The same thing with our governor in Pennsylvania. I mean, basically, he sentenced them to a death sentence. I mean, it was great, looking back on it, but it's like, and they say all the right things, and the politicians, and, don't get me started. It's crazy, man.
Politics are like it's like a white hot poker right now. One side or the other gets poked. It's crazy.
And I think, whether you're on left, right, middle, or in between, it's really, you're just like, if Trump would just be nicer, just try to be like, hey, everybody's in this together, as opposed to always,
Yeah.
I mean, he's an egotistical business guy that doesn't like to lose or being told what to do. I mean, look at all his. I never dealt with him personally, but I was in the golf business, so we dealt with Trump National and a lot of the golf clubs. And
Oh yeah.
the people that worked for him were just like, when he would come to your club, it'd be like, oh my God, like the king is coming. You got it. Everything had to be perfect. He'd yell at you and treat you like dirt. Anyway. So, well, there's my pontification. I'll stop.
Well, I'm down the same pike. I love his economic policies, and I like what he's doing to strengthen us overseas. But just take away his freaking Twitter, man. I was good when they said they were going to block his Twitter account. I'm like, thank God. That's the best thing they could possibly do for him. So, I don't know.
And I guess, when you're, I don't know. I mean, I mean, he definitely doesn't have a PR person. You know what I mean?
Not what he's listening to, anyway.
Not the one that he's listening to. So what do you got going with UV Sports? I can tell you a little bit about my background, and what I've done, and with Active.com and the Active Network. So
I'm fascinated by that. Okay, so I'll go through what we're doing. Back even before Active, which puts it like 15, 17 years ago, I came up with this idea because I've always played the lower profile sports. I'm not a big guy, but I've been always agile and fast and strong and great eye hand. So when I was 12 or 13, I walked by the fencing room in the high school, and I hear this cling, 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 cling. I look in, I'm like, what is this? This is so cool. So this is way back when. This is 74, 72. And so I walk into the fencing room and I say, give me one of those things. So
give me a saber.
And I picked it up, and it was like I'd done it like for 12 generations.
Holy cow.
And so I picked it up, and I'm like beating the guys who are 3 or 4 years older than me the first day I got there. And they're like, holy crap, what's going on with you? So I kept doing it. And I also played tennis, and I was also sailing when I was young. And I was teaching sailing by the time I was 13 or 14. So, things that I picked up, I dug into, and I loved, and I understood, and I could usually translate what I was thinking into my bodily actions. My hand was really good. So I followed that, and I was always at the top of my class as far as school goes. So, I graduated with honors and everything. It was like top 1% of my class, and but I also was great at sports. So I was planning on going to the '80 Olympics in fencing. And all the Ivies wanted to get me, and I went to Penn. And unfortunately, I screwed up my back the first semester.
Oh, my God.
It was really horrible because I was there. I had all these grants and stuff. I paid for nothing. I had work study, so I had money to pay for my fun.
Oh,
and it was wonderful. And then I was pledging a fraternity. And I was 130 pounds when I joined, when I got into school. By the time I got to starting practice in fencing, I was 165 pounds, 170 pounds. All that extra weight was above the waist. So I try to stay lean above the waist and then really thick, legs, because I'm doing a lot of leg work. And so all of a sudden I'm like this V-shaped guy, and I go to lunge one day and my bottom 3 vertebrae separated.
Oh,
I collapsed on the strip, woke up in the Penn Hospital, which luckily was right across the street from where the fencing strip was. And the doctor's poking in my toes. He's going, can you feel this? Can you feel this? I'm like, why shouldn't I be feeling this?
Ooh, that's scary.
And it scared the shit out of me. But, I was okay after a while. And the best story about that is like the Forrest Gump kind of thing. Right. They gave me this drug. They said we can either put a rod on either side of your spine to keep all those vertebrae steady, or we can fuse them all together. Either way, you're not going to play sports. I was like, fuck, that's my life, man.
That's sure. Yeah, man.
So they said, forget about fencing. You're never going to fence again in your life because that lateral motion is going to just keep causing that trouble. And so I said, okay, is there a door 3? And he goes, yeah, door 3 is this radical drug that we're in the test group for, and it decreases swelling, decreases pain, and increases calcification because there are shards of bone all around in there. And I said, it's only a drug? He goes, yeah, it's a drug. You have to be in a body cast for a while until all those things heal together. But you're going to be up and at 'em in about 2 months, and you should be okay.
And this is all your freshman year of college.
Freshman year of college. I mean,
Oh,
totally ruined my
God.
first year at Penn, you know? And so I take this drug.
Are you originally from New York then? So you're far away from
Long
home?
Island. Yeah. I was in
Oh,
the
my
middle of Long
God.
Island then. And
Crazy.
so my parents had to come down and sign waivers, and I had to sign waivers. And they said, it's a radical drug, and it's safe for people. We've been testing it for a couple months in people. It seems to be safe, and it seems to work. I said, okay, great, give it to me. So I had 2,000 milligrams of this stuff every 4 hours, IV, and it worked. It did everything they said it was going to do. So in about 2 weeks, I was out of the body cast. I was on a walker, then crutches. And after about a month and a half, 2 months, I was back walking around. It's still in pain, but not as much. I was still taking the drugs. And after about 3 or 4 months, I was good enough to start practicing and working out with the tennis team because I was also one of the top tennis players in the East. So I started doing that. And the tennis coach was also the squash coach. So I won I came in the finals of a 64-man draw for the one spot that was open at Penn. And
oh, that's funny.
Then the guy who won was a senior. He decides not to go after the team. So I said, Coach, it's my spot. He goes, no, it's not. I go, what do you mean? He said, because you're a squash player. I'm like, squash is a vegetable. What are you talking about? So he said, no, it's a great sport. Let's go watch it. So I watched it. I fell in love, and I've been playing squash ever since. I'm still ranked around in the 60s. So
that's impressive. Yeah, that's a big. I think is the Squash Association still in Philly too? I think
it is. It's in Philly. That's where the Squash National headquarters are. But the actual offices are in New York City.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's funny.
But the squash team is there in Philly.
A quick story on the squash. Was working with a recruiter, and they were looking for I think it was an executive director or a CEO or something, or president at the time. And I also I'll get back to my background. But anyway, I went in for an interview, and, I'm a little bit entrepreneurial, a little bit, not all white, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, me too.
Shirt. Yeah. So, I walked in, suit and tie, and, there's 5 guys, and I think it was at Philly Country Club or one of the, I think it was at Philly Country Club, beautiful squash courts anyway. And I didn't know much about the sport. I had represented tennis players and, professional athletes. So, it's pretty, and I was actually the first president of the Arena Football League. So,
oh, wow, cool.
Yeah. So I, kind of tertiary sports, in my world, I've been playing a soccer guy. We call them non-revenue generating.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, I went in an interview, and they're like, well, what would you do to change the sport? And this was, 20 years ago. And I'm like, well, I come from a world where it's pretty much buzz. It's media. It's, driving. And I said, you really should play in the middle of New York City in a glass court, like play. And they're like, yeah, you need to take all this white down. Everybody should wear their own clothes. Everybody should, should be in colors and, a little bit like rugby or, international soccer, get people chanting and screaming. And, they were, I said, get non-traditional sponsors and, let's have some fun with this. And I was like, I could just see their faces all just like, we're not, I don't know, he's got some great experience and some good ideas. I just don't think the squash world is ready for it. And then, obviously I didn't make the next stage, they were very kind. The one guy was really a good guy. And funny, I think like 3 or 4 years later, they end up doing a glass squash court in the middle of Times Square.
Called the Tournament of Champions.
And I'm like, and it's kind of like, I always a little bit before my time, when I was at the Arena Football League, I did the first ESPN deal and started the first property division with a licensing program. And I got introduced I went to a sevens match, a rugby sevens.
Sure.
And we were like, this is the coolest thing ever. Cause I wasn't a big rugby guy, right? I mean, the 15s or the 4, you're outdoor, like, it's almost like soccer. If you're not a soccer guy and play it, you're kind of like, what's a 0-0? I mean, you can't really follow. It's like, the same thing with rugby. And I'm like, this could totally work indoor. So in 2001, we raised a partner of mine. We raised about $6.5 million. In 2000, we did a test game in '99 and '98 at Dallas Reunion Arena. we still hold the cap record for beer sales per person. I mean, it was bedlam, and it was crazy. It was rough. It was violent. So it was called World Arena Rugby. It was called War. What is it good for? We had the whole.
That's
theme.
cool.
Yeah, blood, guts, the whole 9 yards, and I ended up selling another 1.4 million from Anheuser-Busch, Toyota. We had Skoal Tobacco. We had sponsors. I had Cronky Sports in Denver selling season. So instead of it was a single entity. It was kind of a hybrid entity league because having been with the Arena Football League, I saw all the flaws of the Arena Football League owners were successful guys in their own right. They had car dealers, they had they had apartment complexes, but they all thought they were NFL owners, right? They all had the ego of an NFL guy, and they would spend and they would lie and they would. I mean, it was just. I mean, if I wrote a book, it would be crazy. I was in a meeting where our commissioner Jim Drucker got in a fist fight with one of the owners. In a boardroom, a fist fight. These are two lawyers. So anyway, long story short is we saw this game and we translated into called rugby. And then, 2001, I was in, Atlanta, Georgia, flying down, and that was 9/11. And unfortunately, yeah, it was all based on war. Our league, our thematic, and Anheuser, stuff. I was in Atlanta for 3 or 4 days during that time frame, which was crazy in itself. But and about a week later, I was just anticipating the call. So I also was unique that I didn't use sponsorship money to run a league. I put their payments in escrow accounts because you can't be successful spending sponsorship dollars. So what we did, we ended up there like, hey, we can't be associated with anything that's called war at this time. So unfortunately, and then the other kick in the teeth was our investor was I was going through it was called Tesla Capital at the time, not Tesla, the
Motors.
It was another fund out of California, and the guy, I never met the owner. I never met who was putting the money into it. I met the broker guys, and they seemed like good guys. But the guy was Indian, and he was, when the Patriot Act got from the government, they found out he was running drugs and guns through the Middle East. That's how he was generating money out of India anyway, the guy ended up killing himself. That's how bad. He had invested in like 32 companies and over $60 million. So we never got we got some money, but we never got enough. But so that kind of put a little hiatus on it. And I was like, oh, wow. So anyway, so getting back to your story with respect to kind of I call them non-revenue or smaller sports. I know, I totally understand where you're coming from. I was a soccer guy, probably similar to you, not a big in stature, but 5'8.5", pretty fast and quick. So, I played baseball, soccer, basketball, pretty traditional. And then actually played at Westchester University in Westchester, Pennsylvania. It was a D1 school, and we were pretty good. So I ended up I made the final 36 cuts for the Olympic team in 1984 for soccer. Wow. Yeah, so pretty good, and I played 2 years indoor professionally. So,
wow, that's great.
Yeah, so you always got that competitive, gene in your body. So that's where, and so over the last 25 years, I've been, kind of a sports marketing guy, working for everything from, I don't know if you remember the old NBA Hoop It Up, the 3-on-3 basketball.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was their BD guy, and what I did is we created games for all the leagues. So the NFL, we came up with a flag football program. For the NBA, it was 3-on-3. For NHL, we did Breakout, which was an inline hockey sport. We did I'm trying to think. Oh, AVP, we did Spike It Up. We brought sand into the beaches in the Central Park and built volleyball courts. What else did we do? We did golf with the PJ, the Golf Skills Challenge. So,
wow,
running trucks and sports and events, we call them weekend warrior games. And it's funny because, my kids are all pretty good athletes, and my one son's going to play college soccer next year at Catholic University. My other daughter plays at Elon. She plays lacrosse.
Wow, cool.
And so it's funny because I'm like, they don't play anymore on the weekends. Nobody goes to play pickup. I'm like, I look around, we've got a wonderful park that we're part of a playing community, and we've got basketball courts and, volleyball courts, and, nobody plays. So, hey, I don't know if the video games were the way they are now, I might be playing a lot of video games too.
I have to say, I got into it about 8 years ago with my kids, and I didn't have, for a few years here, I got divorced about 6 years. Well, I got separated 6 years ago, divorced 3, and she's done the old alienation thing where I can't talk to the kids or else. And yeah,
That sucks. Sorry.
it's hell. But so I didn't have a Xbox for 5 years, and finally, just like a month ago, I said I can't take it anymore. I got to play. And so I went and bought an Xbox and started playing Call of Duty again. And I gotta say, I love these things.
Yeah, you see how you get caught up in it, but you know, and that kind of like that whole grassroots campaign, you know, if you know, we tried to resurrect it a couple of times, you know, trying to do a volleyball event or trying to do a golf event, and you know, golf's a little easier because it's more corporate and club, you know, centric, but you know, these kids and people, they just don't, you know, unless you're playing through or an AAU or you have some tournament or it's, you know, some college showcases, it's nobody plays anymore unless, you know, you drive your kid to and it drives me crazy having represented soccer players. I had my own agency back in the day. We did, you know, when MLS started, I represented about 15 or 16 of the top players in the world, or in the MLS, I should say, the US. And it would drive me crazy because they're, you know, everybody would be complaining. I'm like, you know, we're the only sport in the United States where it's a suburban sport. It's a pay to play, you know, and everybody's like, oh, you know, my kid plays in the elite travel. I'm like, and it was funny because I did a tour around '94 with World Cup, and it was called, you know, Kick It Up. You know,
you like the it up things, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty. You know, we weren't the brightest guys, right? We're like, hey, let's kick some grass. Let's, you know, grass day, you know. Anyway, so and it would be funny because we'd be, you know, talking with these, you know, soccer federation guys and, you know, the local Eastern Pennsylvania, the Long Island Soccer Association, and they're like, you know, I'd say, hey, but I also, because I have media partners, I have to give away teams, right? And we'd always give away, you know, and it was 3-on-3 soccer. And I would always go to the soccer guys and be like, I'll guarantee you the team that from the Hispanic radio station that is going to beat everybody. And what, you know, they had all these grassroots kids, you know, all these, you know, elite players. And I'd have the hodgepodge kids from the radio station with, you know, not matching socks and shin guards. And I'm like, you know, it's so it drove me crazy because everybody's, you know, it's a suburban sport. You know, these parents are like, you know, oh, my kid plays at, you know, the elite, you know, Dragons. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, that's okay. But, you know, there's about 80 kids in the inner city that are probably twice as good as your kids. So
yeah, and they're playing on Bad News Bears.
And they don't, yeah, and it's just, you know, and honestly, it's a money grab. I mean, it's, you know,
of course.
I mean, we used to refer to them as the mob. Soccer Federation, and you know, I mean, rightfully so. If you see what happened at FIFA and the World Cup, I mean, everybody was on the take. I mean, it's unfortunate, but you know.
Yeah, one of our guys, Carl Kirchhoff, who's he's from Germany, and he was over there. He actually helped set up UEFA, so he knows all that dirty stuff. He was involved with that guy who killed himself or who died.
Yeah,
he killed himself, but he died. And so he knows all those guys. Like, you know, he's telling me stories like, oh my God, incredible.
Well, and I was in the representation business of soccer, and you know, we heard rumblings of, you know, all the presidents and all the people that were like, you know, because it was so shifty because it was in different countries, so you could funnel money into, you know, the Cayman Islands. You could do your, you know, it was, you know, hey, and it wasn't like, hey, here's $100 to, you know, look the other way. It was like, you know, 7 figures to, and it's, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it was crazy. And, but I did that after I was working at Advantage International, which is now Octagon. So I had represented, you know, like, I wasn't the contract lawyer. I was the off-field and on-field endorsement guy.
So you're a lawyer?
No, I wasn't the lawyer. I was the guy I was the quote unquote Jerry Maguire guy. I would go out and do deals for, you know, shoe deals, shirt deals, apparel deals, consumer packaged goods, things of that nature. So a little bit of everything. And I should have known better when I went to our boss, Lee Fentress, at the time, who was one of the partners at Advantage. And you know, the tennis guy, you know, Tracy also, you remember that name?
Sure, of course.
Her brother was John, and I worked with John on the tennis side, you know, doing, you know, tennis events and sponsorship. And I actually got to be good friends with Miloslav Machir. I don't know if you ever remember that name. He was the Yugoslavian guy. And so long story short, I went to Lee. I said, hey, Lee, me and this Corey, we're going to leave. We're going to open up our own agency, and we'd like to take our 2 soccer players. It was Kobe Jones and Paul Caligiuri at the time. And
oh, wow.
He's like, Rodger, well, typically I would have you thrown out of the office right now, and then have a letter of cease and desist before you left the parking lot, right?
Uh-huh.
And he goes, good luck. He goes, soccer's going to be tough, my friend. So we goes, and it was fine. We made a couple of bucks along the way and had some fun. But, I mean, the biggest contract at that time was Kobe. And he did, it was like 125 grand with,
Right.
my biggest deal with him at one time was probably $500,000. And it was for Hispanic Latino MTV, and so
Wow.
anyway, but I mean, I'm in my late 20s, running around, with a bunch of soccer guys that I like. So it was kind of fun. And we ended up doing a lot of grassroots events. But yeah, so, and then I, did a lot of different things with respect to actually partnered and owned a golf course. So I've been in the, the golf course business. There's 8 of us. And that's where I left active. I probably should have hung around active a little longer, but had an opportunity to buy a golf course. It was kind of in disrepair and it was falling, apart. And we ended up buying it and turning it around. And, I found out very quickly that you can't make money at golf. You had to do it on the food and beverage side.
Yeah.
So we increased, we went from doing 2 weddings a year to 40 after 3 years, and we turned it around pretty quickly. And so kind of like you, I was like, I was a pretty good golfer and played junior golf. And, I was like, I had aspirations. Oh, I'm going to play golf every day. I'm going to get good. By the time I'm on the 50, I'm going to maybe try to make a few cuts and, travel around in an RV or something, like kind of, and I never played less golf in my life. I never.
Yeah, well, of course. You're behind a desk and you're working. And
and and when I did go out, people be like having a Kmart light on your golf cart. People come up to me, Rodger, my tuna last night was not cooked well enough. There was too much sand on the the 18th bunker. I'm like, oh my God. So it was like, you never eat. So anyway, long story then. And then 2007 and 2008 hit. And fortunately we were, I don't want to say we were brilliant, but location. We had a really good location. So we, and we weren't like a, like a Liberty Country Club, or it wasn't $100K to get in. It was, it's, $7 grand or 10 grand a year. It wasn't, crazy money to belong to it. So we weathered the storm and, did some creative things. And because of my special event, I held drive-in movie nights at the drive-in. I brought people in that, typically wouldn't come to a golf club. We did, I did a carnival for a fire company in the parking lot,
Wow.
So just to kind of stay ahead a little of the curve and be a little bit of a corporate good citizen. So anyway, and then, I work for the big boys. I work for Comcast Spectacor, which owns the Philadelphia Flyers and the Wells Fargo Center. And I was on their consultant side. So I'd ride around the country telling people how to raise revenues through their arenas and venues through different, programs and advertising and naming rights. And so, yeah, been around the block. And then obviously with Active, I was their business development guy. And so Active that was a pretty cool time. My office we worked in La Jolla. So my office.
Yeah, I know. Those offices are gorgeous. Right overlooking the water.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, I got to tell you, being a Philly kid, and, we did the Jersey Shore, but I wasn't like a, hardcore, surf guy. And, I was a pretty good athlete. So, could swim and, did everything. And, but living there was just like, after the first 6 months, I turned to my wife. I'm like, God, I wish it would just rain one Sunday so I could just sit home and watch football. I'm like, because it was you always felt like, God, you got to do something. It was so nice out all the time. But and working with Active, a bunch of triathletes and active people, and Jim Woodman on the the cycling U.S. national cycling team, and Lance Armstrong was one of our early investors, or not my investor, but the Active. And
right.
Anyway, it was basically, and the model, it was basically the Ticketmaster of the event world.
Yeah, Ticketmaster, right. They got way into events and they were like doing all the registrations and stuff. And
yeah. And then they, I think what happened was I got out right before they moved out to the desert, I call it. It was only like 10 miles away, but it was, I forget the name of the little area. It was a lot cheaper, obviously. And they brought in some VC guys and everything changed. It wasn't, all of a sudden the ping pong table disappeared, the kegs disappeared, that free spirited, hey, let's go out, as opposed to going out for lunch, let's go for a swim, let's go for a run. And nobody really watched. I don't want to say I'm gonna say watched you, but you know, it was just a different mindset. People got their work done, but you know, it might be from 4 to 7. You know, they wanted to go take a 2-hour bike trip, or you know, hey, you know, I mean, I remember my first or second week out there, it was like Friday. I'm like, I wonder. And my office was gorgeous. I was overlooking, you know, the La Jolla Bay. I mean, it was just crazy, right? And you know, on a great day, you could see the whales.
Yeah.
Out there, and then on a crisp winter day, you could see Big Bear overlooking Torrey Pines. So you'd look out and you'd see the Whitecap Mountains, Torrey Pines, and whale. I mean, you're like, people would come by, Rodger, you know, wake up. I'm like, oh. But anyway, the first couple of weeks there, I was like, I wonder if anybody's going to ask me to go to happy hour or something. So the first Friday, there they come, and they all come by in their bikes. You know, they had their helmets. They're like, hey, we're going for a ride, but we're going to go to happy hour at this time. So meet us over there, you know. And so they went for, 30, 50-mile bike ride before they go to happy hour. So,
wow, cool.
But it was cool. We did, and I was a business development guy. So I went out and did, kind of alternative deals. I wasn't on the technology side. So my role was to aggregate all the benefits and assets that they had, whether it was camps, and then I break it into, hey, Coca-Cola wants, 18 to 21-year-olds that bowl, 18 to 21-year-olds that ride bikes. You could really get the aggregate down to a pretty fine night. And, that I would say the most valuable inventory was the registration that you got.
Of course, yeah.
When you sign up, everybody opens that. You got to find out your race number and your instructions. So that's what we sold. And then I kind of brokered out the side, and I brought in Ironman and Xterra, which are events. And because of my sponsorship background, we started representing them on the sales side, sponsorship side. And then I knew about it, but they had a whole government solutions division, which basically would, out of Canada, and they would go into cities and, do 311 or 411, pay your parking ticket online, or, hey, there's a pothole on my street. How can I? And I had a really good friend, Don Schulte, who had a municipality marketing company. He was just brokering deals for food and beverage for cities like San Diego, Honolulu. So I ended up getting active to buy his company, and then we went into the municipality marketing space, and we went out and represented, and it was great because typically to get a muni, it was basically raising revenues without raising taxes. And again, you take the aggregate of what the city owns. They own trash trucks, gas bills, park, recreation, buildings, inventory, bus shelters. So we actually started doing non-traditional advertising, all this out-of-home stuff. And it was cool because they already had the contract with certain cities, so we didn't have to go through an RFP process. We just kind of slipped under the auspices of the network contract. And next thing you know, we're doing, 6-7-figure deals with companies to be the official soft drink of San Diego, or, I did deals for Petco at, dog parks. We did beach deals in Huntington Beach. We did, back of lifeguard stands, trash cans. So, anyway, and it wasn't invasive, right? It was, you always had I call them the granola crowd, that were always like, hey, you're going to put, Coca-Cola on the, on our, and it's going to look ugly, and we don't want that. I'm like, no, they're going to donate, like Simple Green. We did the trash cans, right? So they also donated, equipment, beach cleaning equipment, so I mean, it was a win-win. We just had to kind of get around the counts, the government councils. So yeah. So anyway, so that's my very crazy, background. Are you trying, because Active also, it kind of broke up. They kind of sold off certain divisions. They sold, they had a Tea Times division that I think they ended up selling. And I haven't really heard much of them lately. I know they're still in business, but I'm not sure what form or fashion they're really in.
Yeah, they got bought out by some PE firm, and they're trying to consolidate. That firm is trying to consolidate a bunch of sports entities. And
yeah, it's funny because, and you probably have more experience than I do on the PE and the VC side. Is you get purchased, then they break you up and sell you, and then they go out and buy. They do it all over again, and they come back and buy you again. And it's like, I don't get it, but I mean, I like the entrepreneur and kind of building things up, and I just haven't had that one home run where I've hit a lot of singles, doubles, and triples, but I need the home run, if you know what I mean.
Well, I actually think that's where we are. I think we can be that home run. We've got I've put a lot of things together and a great team together. I have a guy who was in the start of ESPN and Rivals, and another guy who started a bunch of ventures over in Europe in sports, and a woman who was with the NHL and the Jet Devils, and another woman who's been a basketball coach and has coached colleges and a little bit of the WNBA for the past 22 years. So she wants to take care of the basketball side. And her son's Terrence Mann on the Warriors.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So she knows what she's doing there. And so I've got this hodgepodge of people, but they're all like people I envy. I mean, they've had such great careers.
Right.
I have this another woman, Ann Crandall. She worked for Pac-10, for NFL, NBA, incredible record. And so they're all looking for their home run too.
Yeah.
And that's cool because I've been working on this for longer than I care to admit. I came up with the idea in 2003. So
that was, yeah. So I was actually one of the original guys at EO Sports.
Oh, really? Wow.
So on paper, I was it, man. I was really loaded, but and I was consulting with them, and I'm like, I kept saying, you guys, and it was the internet days. I mean, everything was crazy. People were selling companies and I'm a little bit more of a practical guy. I'm like, where's our revenue model? I'm like, we're blowing through all this money. I'm like, oh, Rodger, but you can do an advertising sponsorship. I'm like, not at the rate we're spending. I mean, this is all uncharted territory. There's no ROI attached to it. And they're like, don't worry about it. I'm like, just go out and get deals done. I'm like, all right. Yeah. And that was kind of the crazy. It was like myteams.com. And at that time, and then Active was kind of the lone survivor out of all those guys because they had the business model. They were like, all right, we're going to charge you 50 cents a registration. Boom. Yeah. Okay. At least you had a solid model over a buck, depending, who you're, how many runners or how many event participants you had. And I was like, okay, these guys will probably survive because they have their own revenue source. And, and since then I've been approached by all these social media influencer platform. I got a guy that's right now who's got way too much money. He thinks he's building the next Facebook. I'm like, why? I mean, there's no he's like, well, we're doing it's going to be a fintech play for influencers having their own credit cards. I'm like, all right.
Wait a minute, what's his name?
Jeff Vanderpool?
Yeah.
You know him?
He's been hounding me.
Oh, no way.
No way. And I'm like, Jeff, man, you've got so many, you've got this idea about being Facebook when you don't have anything to talk about.
He's a great guy. I mean, he's a good talker, and I like talking with him, and he's a fun guy. And I have a guy in Canada who's Jordan, who's my, we all have that guy that, the social media guy, my influencer guy that, and he's got his own platform, and he, and he's a really good friend. So I said, all right, Jordan, get on the phone. And Jordan just, he's talking back-end technology, building software out. He goes, what's your, this? And he goes, what's your thing? He goes, and he named 5 companies that were built kind of trying off the Facebook platform. And he goes, Jeff, your company will be gone tomorrow if Facebook says they don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And anyway, so there's, and then Jordan, obviously he works out of in Ottawa, and he runs an incubator with the government there in the state of, not the state, but the province of Ottawa. And they've got some pretty heavy investors and, technology guys. And they're like, it didn't pass his sniff test. And I'm like, Jeff, and he's like, well, get me athletes, get me signed, LOIs. I'm like, dude, if I call my buddies and ask them to do that, they're going to say, yeah, all right, what do I get on the back end? Give me, I want 6 figures or 5, So I'm like, now, I don't know. He said he's getting some money from some Monte Carlo account. And
yeah. That's why I love offer them, I was like, okay, yeah.
Are you involved with him at all or no?
No, he's been, same thing, hounding me. He said, we got these great things, experiences, da-da-da. We're going to bring in shake and dinners with the pros and that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's great for the experience. And he's talking about then, right, fintech and all that kind of stuff. Like, yes, you're right. Facebook can pull the rug out of them whenever they want and just say we're going to do it on our own. And he's going to be up a creek. And I'm looking at this thing like there's nothing there.
Right.
And so how can you're representing this massive opportunity when really it's just it's sort of shystery. And
it felt like a little bit because I said I've got a couple investors that may look at this. I said, well, what's your do you have a private placement member? You have anything or business? And he sends me these emails of the first 1 to 4 million he spent with 100 whatever. I'm like, I ain't gonna cut it. I mean, yeah. And I'm not a financial genius, but I can't go to to some CFO, because anyway. So yeah, he's anyway, pretty interesting. But so is your model kind of active reinvented, or is it kind of because the reason Jeff and I got it talking was I've been working for a group out of Jacksonville, Florida over the last year called Win Experiences, and what we do is we take high-end individuals, corporate people to the Masters, Ryder Cup, experiential events, black tie,
sure.
Pretty high, last year I took from this winery out in Napa, we ended up taking 42 people from a wine club, and we brought in Craig Statler. We had
Wow.
Aaron Sanchez come in and cook a meal for them. And it wasn't cheap, as you can imagine. So that's what I've been doing. So I've had the ability to kind of rub some elbows and have some pretty good times with the people that I've been working with. But obviously with COVID, I went from getting a nice fat commission checks to we're not doing anything right now. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, this really sucks, man. I can't believe it. So I race little sailboats now every Friday night, and we're just starting. Sorry.
That when I was in San Diego, we always excuse me. It was called the beer can races.
Oh yeah, and we do those on Wednesday nights. We have keg races. Yeah.
And these guys would race their and I excuse me for messing up the yachting or the sailing word, but there's certain size boats they were racing in the and it was fun. Yeah. It was every and it was cool to go down and watch, and a couple buddies did it. Yeah. So that's what you do on Wednesdays, huh?
Wednesdays I do the bigger boats, and we have like closed course racing out in the bay, and then on Friday nights we go out with these little 12-foot boats called lasers.
Okay, yes.
And they're still used in the Olympics, so they're hot boats, but they fall over all the time. I mean, you're expecting to go in the water, so so you prepare for that, but you're hoping to stay on top of the boat. And so we got the instructions about this Friday, and you got to wear a mask when you're setting up the rig. You got to wear gloves when you touch anything that anyone else can touch. You're only allowed to take off the mask once you're out in the water. Like all kinds of rules. And then when you get back in, you can drink your beer, but you have to have your mask on and your
straw
gloves. Yeah, exactly. Straw with a little hatch on the. It's like crazy.
Meanwhile, tens of hundreds of thousands of people are protesting through the streets, not with a care.
Oh, they don't give a shit about that. They're I think the reason why half of them are out there is they're so frustrated for the past 2 months.
I agree. Yeah.
And they got to do something. The other half are just trying to create mayhem, and the other half are really about George Floyd. So I'm about to write something, put it into UB Sports about what this means, and some dumbass wrote something in the Intelligencer was like a part of the New Yorker, and so they write this thing about like how sports don't matter. I'm like, are you freaking kidding? That's what everyone is waiting for. They're waiting for an outlet. Why do you want to do pro sports? Because the world needs that kind of outlet. They need something that is healthy competition, that takes them away from their day-to-day crap that they're going through right now. Yeah. So I read something like that, and I'm like, you guys are such jerks, man. You don't know what you're talking about.
No, and funny being a soccer guy, I like reading, and there's a couple books. I forget the name of the one, but it's how soccer shaped the world. I mean, basically from way back. I don't want turn of the century kind of stuff. Where it's the the Scottish brought in Irish players, and they because they wanted to win, and that people killed each other if you're Irish or you're English, and it was basically war. But soccer infiltrated all of this kind of mess because they could play. I mean, if you could play, you were welcome. So anyway, it was pretty interesting, and I hear you, and I see it here. I've got a lot of buddies in the sports business, and got some technology companies that I'm waiting on. I had 2 contracts before this where interesting. You might have heard a company called Ski Data.
Ski Data?
Yeah, it's a Switzerland-based company, and it's ski. So they kind of figured out the formula. So when, as opposed to checking in at your lift line or ski line, when you would actually, they're the largest parking attendant in the world. So they have smart parking garages, and they've matriculated, and they do a lot of the international stadiums with handheld devices, and so it's all paid. So once I pull in the parking lot, I pay, my ticket's paid. I can go the checkout line and order food and beverages. I'm ticketless, and it's interesting. They work with Ticketmaster. I think eventually somebody's going to buy them out, but they're huge. So I had a contract getting ready to start with them, and obviously it pulled the plug because they're like, hey, nobody's going to events, so we can't really do anything right now.
Yeah. True.
But what are you? Is your because there are some companies in the space that are out there, like. I've used them for my soccer team when my son was younger. There are some platforms like Demisphere and some other ones that are out there.
Yeah, and Blue Sombrero is one of the first, and there are a lot of them out there, especially for soccer. It seems like they all gravitated to that, soccer or baseball.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of the other one that's popular. It's like an orange brand logo. It's I forget, but. So is yours a registration model? Are you trying to do events?
Well, we actually built that back in 2010, 2011.
Oh, wow.
And it was all about registration and then into the league and then splitting up the teams and then running the whole season. And I was thinking that was a good business model. But at that point, it started getting crowded. Active got into that with my teams and all that kind of stuff. And they were buying things. And there's Blue Chip and Blue Sombrero and all that. I said, you know what, this is getting crowded. Yeah. And the partners I was with thought they knew how to market, but didn't really want to put the work in. And everybody was the chief, no one was the Indian. And I'm like, we got to get, either we're going to get serious or we're not. And they were like, I like where we're going. I'm like, you know what, you guys can keep this part. I'm going to take the part that now is UB Sports and just take the social and the resource and take that away. And I'll do that. Okay. And that was 2012. And then by 2014, I decided to launch UB Sports. And from then on, it was just putting the pieces together. We did a lot of work on the back end, a lot of sitting down with the developers day to day and say, what if, and just building a really great back end so that if you're the head of a league or a team or a facility, you can sit down in 15, 20 minutes, have a portal that is really great for your constituents, and then do all the stuff that, frankly, that you could do with e-teams and my teams and all those, but in a more casual basis with the social all wrapped in and with all the resources that the kids will need themselves to learn how to be better batters and hitters and swingers and catchers and pitchers. So it became a more organic approach to that kind of business. And our revenue model's pretty straightforward. It's obviously ad revenue. Two is selling sporting goods. And between 2005 and 2010, I basically started and ran and built a sporting goods business that was selling retail and then went to institutional. I was selling all over the nation. We literally out-ordered our capability to supply. And the problem with selling to schools is that they don't want to pay until the season. So you could sell on June 1st, you get the orders, you deliver, but you don't get paid until March.
Yeah, I actually worked for DeLong right out of college.
Oh, so yeah.
Yeah, so I ran around, yeah, so I and they get their budget and their money times, and it was such a, hard good, soft good, it was a hard play because you couldn't, all the money was in the team sports, right? Developing the uniform, a softball is a softball, tennis ball is a tennis ball, and, can't make a penny on a tennis ball or something, but it was, on the creativity side of the uniforms and the different. Yeah. So now, were you a manufacturers or were you?
No, we were just reselling. We had people who were customizing the uniforms.
Okay.
And that was just a regular, basically embroidery shop out here in Long Island. And we would have the boxes of jerseys and shirts and pants delivered right to them. They would mark them up, and we would send them out. I would barely touch them.
Oh wow,
Just
that's
make sure they got them. So it was I love that business. I love this concept of drop shipping and having other people doing the work. So
yeah.
I'm planning on having I don't really want a whole warehouse, but I want a pick and pack facility, and it's probably going to be in Arkansas. One of the challenges we won was the CAI Scale Challenge, which is run by the Walmart people.
Okay.
And so one of the requirements is that you have to base part of your organization out of Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, I forget the name of the road there that everybody lives. All the businesses they're built from there.
Yeah, Somethingville Road.
Yes.
And so yeah, it's for me. It's it's in the middle of the country. So if you have something like that in the middle of the country, they can deliver to Oregon as well as Florida with roughly the same costs.
Yeah. And
it just made a lot of sense. And I'm planning on spending a lot of time in Colorado Springs. So passing through Arkansas is like a normal kind of thing for me. It'd be no problem. So winning the challenge too is good. We're going to be standing in front of a bunch of investors in September.
So where does that take place?
It's going to be right in their headquarters in
Walmart. In Bentonville, then, right?
Yeah, in Bentonville. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be a big thing. And it was supposed to be March 30th to April 4th, but obviously,
right.
So they didn't know if it ever was going to pull off. But then they said, yeah, we're going to do it on September 24th. So.
And that is for your apparel business? Is that because, they pulled the wool over a little bit of every, and I'm not, Walmart's big. I mean, they kind of, he who has the gold makes the rules sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
They, over the last probably 5 or 6 months, have launched their own outdoor camping line.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's, I don't really care. We're not going to be manufacturing anything. We're just selling it. And our job is to get a social and resource atmosphere environment where people want to go and learn how to play, be with their mates, and check out with their team, see what the coach is doing, and oh yeah, by the way, I can buy my bat here, or my the Marina, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So the idea is to complement what they offer in the stores and online with the higher end stuff. They're all about the intro stuff. If you're looking at
entry level market. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So let them have that. And we are the next step. Number one, they're all bricks and mortar. They're trying to get online, but the way they're doing it is by using suppliers. People who are doing the drop shipping and stuff. So we're the next level. After you get done with the entry level stuff, you're ready to play better. You want to learn how to win. You come to UB Sports to watch skills and drills. You're connecting right with the governing body and with the Olympic athletes and the pros. So one of our things is every sport has an Olympic athlete or a pro attached to it. And you can ask them questions. You can say, Joe Olympian, tell me about, what I'm doing wrong with my swing, or what bat should I use? I'm 5'3" and whatever.
Right.
So the idea is to have direct connections with that whole vertical from beginners to the pros, and for every sport. And it's really, we've built the template, and all we're doing is finding people to fill in that community. And,
and obviously there's a lot of how-to videos, like you ever hear Blast?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's. And
the third part of that, so you got the ad revenue and the sporting goods sales, which are 80% of the revenue model right now, but the other 20% is the subscriptions for the guys who want to coach, and like the IMGs of the world.
Yeah.
So and they all have like between $5 and $100 a month. You can get involved with these coaches. So our deal is to say, listen, I've got a population, give us 20 or 30% of that $5 a month, and I'll get you more people. So
the coaches are paying you or no?
We get 20% of the revenue from the subscriptions. So we
right. So if I separate it out, I've got and I'll use kind of the consumer institutional side, or I call coaches institutional. So the coaches, the consumer, the player wants to get a video or wants to ask a question, he belongs to a subscription-based model. And then you have the coach, but the coach isn't paying you to be on the site. You're just taking a percentage of whatever the fee he's going to charge the consumer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Except for apps. We're building 2 apps that are specific for trainers. So you have the mind-body side of things. So it's the class trainers and the studio trainers, the yoga teachers, those kind of guys. So that's
Right.
one mile. You can charge $5 a month for those kind of guys. And also the really more important one for our operational model is the NATA trainers, the athletic trainers.
The association, yeah.
Yeah. So they're sitting on the side of they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for somebody to break a leg. So they're trying to train the guys so they don't break the legs, but then they're also taking care of the rehab. So each one
I call them the real trainers.
That's I do too. They're the medical trainers.
Right.
And so but they touch between 500 and 1,000 athletes a year each.
Yeah.
So that's about 20 million people a year they go through their doors. So our job is to build an app that every one of those guys wants to use, because they're going to, in order to work with the trainer, they're going to have to join UB Sports.
Right. And they've been consolidated over the years too, through, Health South and all the other, kind
Exactly.
of. So I mean, it was funny. I created some consumer programs for CPG companies, and it was always, how do I get to an athlete at 16 years old, wants to sweat, boy, and deodorant. And we created a lot of different game plans for, athletic trainers, went through the association, to the coaches association, and
Sure.
you weren't going to get it advertising through the school or district, right? They were like, no. But we always knew, like, if we went directly to the coaches, and the coaches, in these small towns or wherever they are, didn't have huge budgets. So we got them stuff that they wanted. And our, CPG companies would give them whistles, give them mouth guards, give them, inspirational posters. And it was all, branded, very cool and understated on the sponsor. But coaches were like, we got people, coaches were like, oh my God, thank you. I've never, simple stuff, just clipboards, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, we have clipboards made. And you're right. Those kind of things are really important.
Yeah.
No, you don't think so. They really
no, you don't think so. You're like, oh, everybody's got a clipboard, but no, they all don't. So
yeah.
Interesting. Well, how can it sounds like obviously, I gave you a little bit of a top line of my kind of background, and I'm looking for some different opportunity and things of that nature. So what can I do? How can I help? What's the kind of your next step? I know you said you're heading in September to maybe get some to pitch for the contest. Just FYI, I was on a reality TV show myself.
Really?
Yeah. It was so the company, the gal, it was called Hope Page Medical IDs. And it was basically, way back in the day, she had created, kind of cool bracelets for, teens, adults with like a heart disease.
Right.
Remember the old clunky, I've got to, if I pass out, this is what to do, I'm O negative, whatever, and she just put, a fashion statement around it. And her father was Herb Lotman. I don't know if you ever heard Herb's name.
What was his last name?
Herb Lotman. Herb.
Oh yeah.
Was the largest vendor to McDonald's. So he, just crazy, silly, Anyway, he made fortune. He ended up owning like 20 McDonald's himself, and he ended up. Great story. Herb was a bigger than life kind of guy. He's passed away now, but he sold his company for, I guess it was 100 and some million. Was on the board, didn't like how it was being run, bought it back for 300 million, and then ended up selling it for 1.2 billion to a Venezuelan company. So anyway, so I was at his I forget what they call the Jewish wake funeral, whatever they call that, and
Shiva,
yeah, and they had the president of Coca-Cola, Ray Kroc, granddaughters were there.
Wow.
They credited her with the frozen hamburger, the McNugget. Herb was so smart back in the day that they were talking about this chicken McNugget, the frozen, and so he knew he couldn't compete with Tyson and all those guys on the thing. So he ended up going to all the local chicken farmers and buying contracts from them before anybody. So he said, hey, if I get this contract, you can't deal with any of these other companies. And, chicken farmers are like, well, all right, I don't care. You're going to give me how much money up front? So he locked all the chicken farms up, and that's how he won the contract.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, so she hired me to take the bracelet to an active lifestyle. So, you're wearing a rubberized bracelet there. This was basically a little easy device that you could, it had your papers in it. It was waterproof and, salt proof. But, it really wasn't enough product to sell. I mean, we had it in had probably had, a couple hundred locations around the country, but we created a whole LED light. So we created this heel light that would go on your shoe to running at night, your armbands and bike bands. Cool. I've been to China, several times looking for manufacturers and, going through. I mean, I can't tell you some of the places I've been in China where I was like, ooh, we're going to have, because she was a very, she didn't want, slave labor and didn't want, I'm like, and I'm, traipsing through Nanjing and, Shenzhou, and I'm like, there's nowhere that doesn't do it,
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, we found a pretty reputable company up in Ningbo, and we ended up doing some EO, OEM stuff for Huffy and bike lights, and we did some other ones for called Kent Bicycles, where we did I'm always a licensing guy too, so we got a deal with Margaritaville. We created little tiki cups to put on your bike while you rode. You drank on the beach. I mean, just wherever to make a buck, we thought about it. And so anyway, so that's kind of my manufacturing side. But I do love it. I think that's a unique opportunity. How are you guys? So you're not on the registration side of the business anymore? Are you thinking about?
We're letting that evolve. That's probably going to be Plan B. Or level B. We have a couple things we want to do 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road. Right now, I'm really concentrating on getting the organizations to bring their members in. So we talked to the national governing bodies and USA Volleyball, USA Field Hockey, those kind of people, and making it worth their while to bring their constituents in. And then reaching out to all that community and bringing in the greater community, not only into us, but also into the governing bodies. The problem with the governing bodies is that they are stuck in their silos, and it's really, you got two factors. You have the communications and marketing people, and then you have all the old guard. The old guard is like, I want this silo to be this tight. You can't get in here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys are jerks, man. You're losing, 80% of the population. You want to have everybody coming in. And U.S. Sailing is really getting really smart about what they're doing. What's cool about their model is that if you sail in a race and it's governed by the U.S. Sailing, everyone has to join. USTA is the same model.
Yeah, it's a sanction. Yeah.
Yeah, sanctioning, right? So, but a lot of them aren't doing that. They're saying, well, maybe if you want to, you can join USA Badminton, and you don't have to have a license in order to play in a tournament. So, I mean, you guys are missing 80. Their population is 7 million people in the United States, and they have 20,000 people as members.
Yeah, I mean, it's the AAU model, right? Pay me $40 a year, and now you can play in any tournament you want, and just slap on an AAU logo. And marketing wise, it works well because parents say, "Oh, my kid's playing AAU,"
Yeah. Yeah. The problem you're having though is that they're charging like $100 a year, or $300 every 3 years, and for a lot of parents, that's too much. But if you give them $5 a month, they'll do that, or $7 a month. They'll rather do that than take a chunk out of their pocket right now. So you can get them into a more of a monthly subscription kind of thing, and you get a lot more activity. But also, I'm saying, why are you charging so much? You don't really, if you have 10 times more people in there, you don't have to charge $150 a member. You just charge, $50 a member, you end up with 3 times more money. And they just, it doesn't compute for 3/4 of them.
No, and I totally hear what you're saying, and they just get in their box or silo, like you referred to it. They just don't see the horizon. They're so protective of their space, but they're like, you can't grow that unless you get outside your box. And
exactly.
And it's I call it the inspirational pyramid, right? Everybody's chasing the 1 or 2 percenters, where hey, all the money's in the 80%. All the money's in the I call a weekend warrior, the guy that wants to be up that top of that pyramid, and or the gal or guy.
Those are the aspirational players.
Yeah, the aspirational, right? And it's like everybody sees Little League, right? They see the the finals and World Series and in Williamsport, PA, which is a couple hours from us, and and we actually actively had that account, so we did all the Little League baseball, and I was like, yeah, hey, that's just a scratch in the bucket, man. They got it, it's the little Arkansas, it's Texas, it's the little the Little League in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, or Long Island, New York, that are paying all the fees. So yeah. Now there is a company out there that's kind of aggregating this, not similar to what you're doing, but they're going to online streaming. I forget the name. And there's a couple of players out there, but they're signing deals similar to what they understand that they're not going to get the big boys. They're not going to get the USA basketball or the under 16 or 18. So what they're doing is they're kind of aggregating the smaller sports. I call them non-revenue, and they're doing deals with high schools and but it's all streaming. And part of their models, they talk to me about I'm like, look, I said, if you get 1 million of anything, whether it's basketball, tennis, golf, that's a number, right? I mean, that's a real number. That's a touch point. If you sign up 1,000 people or 1,000 teams that has 10 people, that's a lot of people, as opposed to doing one league and having 1,000. So
right,
I mean,
exactly.
It's an aggregate total, right? So I get what you're saying. Go, get all the small ones and kind of build your army, and then the bigger ones will say, wow, what are they doing over there? Why are they? Let's go talk to those guys.
Yeah.
Are you going into the event business at all? Are you thinking about that? Or are you?
We'll sponsor some. In fact,
that's why we're curious.
Half of our uses of funds for this $5 million round that we're doing right now is really for events and for licensing and that kind of stuff. So we're leaving that sort of casual right now. As far as I'm not going to say we're going to do the Pan Am Games next year, but I want to make sure that we have enough money to throw it around when someone says, listen, I'll play with you on the membership side. And, if USA Field Hockey says, we need somebody to sponsor the Nationals, I want to say, okay, fine, but I want your people.
Yeah, there's a company I was working with a couple of years called Socketize. This is a great word.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They're the international company that started advertising on socks. Literally,
right.
they invented it. It's to hold up your shin guard. But
it's a place to put a logo.
And they got deals, I think, with La Liga and maybe the Bundesliga and a couple of them over there. And a lot of times they're not advertisers; they're just the name of their club,
right?
Whether it's Lyon or Juventus or something to that nature. But anyway, they came to the United States, and they also have some technology. If you ever watch the international sports, you'll see I call them Donner boards, but the rotating boards on the side.
Sure.
But then you'll see on the grass, you'll see these kind of funky looking, things in the goal or on the sides of the grass. They've also have that technology, and they're trying to get into pro sports over here. And anyway, they did a small deal with the National Federation of High Schools.
Oh yeah, sure.
So now high school teams can, it was very inexpensive. But to me, I told them, I'm like, look, they were going to spend a lot of money. I'm like, you don't need. I said, that's the governing body, but they don't have any governing. They that's the association, but it's all at the grassroots level. I mean, it's the PIAA, the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, is what everybody follows in Pennsylvania. They don't care what the National Federation is. They belong to it. But I said, you're better off, picking the top 10 states, getting your numbers of, where you need to be as far as your ROI, go do individual state deals. And they did it for half the price and got, twice the benefits. And, the Federation was mad, but there's no national championship. I actually did the first national high school golf and tennis championship.
Wow, really? That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what it was? There was no national championships for golf or tennis, but I knew it was individual sport with parents with money. I got Davis Love, who was a buddy of mine's agent, and we're like, hey, let's go down to Jekyll Island, Georgia, where Davis Love's on Sea Island. I got the Jekyll Island Convention and Visitor Bureau to give me money to bring it down. Well, I had 350 golfers and 400 tennis players who played at the Jekyll Island Golf and Tennis Club, and I just sent notes through this state association, say, would you like to come play? And you know what? I would go to all the record, so if you won in Pennsylvania, I'd send you a letter, right? Hey, you just won the state high school. Would you like to compete in the next? No, I can't. Well, I sent the next letter to the second guy, then the third guy. All of a sudden, I had 10 people to send to, right? Because I had 10 finishers. And, well, I didn't get the number one guy, but nobody knew that, so down in the high school, you represented Pennsylvania. You were the two golfers from Pennsylvania.
Cool.
And we had 40 some states represented. We had tennis. We played at the Oysters in Jekyll Island there. I mean, clay courts. It was beautiful. We had it sanctioned by the UST. I mean, golf. I mean, it was crazy, it was, so I think there's a model there, and I would love to kind of maybe work with you to recreate that a little bit on the high school platform or even the collegiate platform, because there's still no there's no national championships for any high school sports per se. I mean, there's rankings,
Sure.
but there's no, and it's not, obviously it's not cost effective.
Right. Right now, when you get to a certain level, except for the, team sports are different, but the individual sports,
Right.
there are the districts and the nationals that you go to, the under 18s, under 19s, whatever sport.
Yeah.
And my kids were playing squash. So it was under 15s, under 17s, under 19s.
Yeah.
And that's all individual though.
It's all individual.
Right.
And all the other national governing bodies have, their junior volleyball and, their, junior AAU and those things. My thing is I'm kind of on the high school side because I was like, these kids, work their tails off in high schools, but, they get their state championships, but no one has ever aggregated all those kids to come to one place. I was the executive director of the Ohio Sports Festival. So kind of like the, what do they call it in New York? It was the Empire State
Games.
Yeah. So similar, I was the Ohio Sports Festival guy, and I just saw the numbers, and we had really good athletes that would participate, but it was always that 80%. We never got, the top 20% because they would be playing, AAU basketball in, Georgia or something. But again, it was, Tom and little Johnny wanted to have that gold medal around his head, and we did opening ceremonies. Right. I had 15,000 athletes.
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy. And we marched them in like the Olympics. I mean, it was very cool. Anyway, so I kind of get your space. I love it. If there's anything, I don't know if you're looking, I've got, some potential people. If you've got a good business model, I mean, there are some VC guys, or not VC. I shouldn't call them VCs, more angelish, I would call them.
I'm looking. We had that $5 million round, and we have people who are interested, but one guy is saying he wants to do the whole thing. It's like the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Guy's saying I got $50 million, but it's about 20% odds that I'm getting the money to put in. Right. And I got a lot of other people saying I could put in 250, I can put in 100, I can put in $500,000. And I'm thinking I'll put them together like that. And basically the same model as I'm doing the business. We're not going after baseball, basketball, football, we're going after the lower sports. The same thing with I see raising these funds. It's just there's. Right. I think it's better also to have a mass of people because they bring their own interests and excitement into it, and they also have their own connections all over the place.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah. So on a couple of, obviously we can keep talking, or we can send some communications back and forth. But I don't know what you're looking for with respect to, sounds, obviously you got a pretty good handle on everything. Whether you're looking for partners, I mean, obviously you don't have full-time people right now, do you? Or
no, I'm full-time, and we have two people who are going to be full-time out of the box after the first $250,000, and that's going to be our head of tech and our head of e-commerce.
Right. Which are important. Yeah.
They're like the two most important people. Much more important than I am. I'm just like bottle watcher.
And it's funny because when and I was at Active, we always, there was always the tech guys, and they were like, they'd be like, we're the smartest guys. I'm like, yeah, but without us, you'd have no money, with business development sales guys. We're like, but without them, I'd have nothing to sell. So.
Well, that's it. So I figured I would put these two guys together. Or actually, the woman is e-commerce. She's down in New Jersey. And the tech guy, he has a house here in Sag Harbor and then a house in Pennsylvania. Okay. And he's a big softball player. So he plays a lot of softball in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So. USSSA, man. Yeah. That's a great story. They found out very early that there was more money in the insurance side of the business than in softball.
Really? I didn't know that.
So they actually started their own insurance company to sell to themselves. See, I know the weirdest things, man. It's just, just because I've dealt with, some crazy platforms over the time and people, and I'm always fascinated by the way people kind of figure out their model, how they make money, how they, and it's like you go into a business doing one thing, you're like, wow. Like I went into the golf course thinking, we're going to make a ton of money in golf. I'm going to play golf, right? Well, I ended up being, a food and beverage guy. I was buying, how can I get my water? How can I get my beef cheaper?
Yeah, exactly. That's where all the big business is.
Yeah. Oh, if I buy local, I can use it more local, farm to table, and.
Yeah, but don't you want to buy these clubs and don't you want to go out and play? And
yeah, and and for us it was all about creating, kind of that experience, and anyway, there was a lot of ways to make the dollar work. So what do you want? What can I do for you? I know that obviously, if you're looking for money, I probably wouldn't be in a position to. I'd have to put more sweat equity, obvious, into the deal. You know, but I do have some individuals that I can go to. I like your space you're in. I think I can be kind of a strategic partner, help, you know, going to different, you know, and I'm a sales guy. So, you know, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and trying to convince people to do, you know, to be part of things, as long as you have a good, you know, I always call it a pod, which is point of difference.
Yeah.
What's going to be different than you.
Where do you actually live?
Westchester, Pennsylvania. You know, we're King of Prussia, not Westchester, New York, but probably.
I know King of Prussia very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of squash. Actually, there's two private schools within like half a mile of there. And
yeah, I'm trying to think. You're probably at
Lawrenceville, and there's another one that's out there.
There's the Hill School.
Yeah, the Hill School is one of them, and there's another one I can't remember the name of. Right, like
Germantown Academy, maybe.
No, I don't think it's that. One of my sons won a tournament there back during Sandy, and so that was.
You know where the King of Prussia Mall is? I mean, that's
of course.
Yeah, I used to work for Simon Property Group. I was their
cool
business development guy. I managed $18 million in sponsorships a year. I mean,
holy crap!
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I mean, you know, I was the guy that would put that stupid car in the mall, and you'd have to walk around it, or you know, the shit hanging from the ceiling or on the glass, you know, on the elevators, on the escalators, on the pillar wraps, you know.
Whatever sells, it's great.
And I felt a little bit, you know, like I mean, I would, and it's weird because even now I'll go like malls or I don't go to a mall anymore, but I go to, you know, to shopping, or I'll drive by, or I'll see a smokestack on the side of a highway. I'm like, man, that'd be a great opportunity for someone to pay me to put up something. You know, while my wife's looking at the art, you know, or the clothes, I'm like, look at that blank elevator. Why don't they have something sold on that thing? You know, so. Oh
my God, you really are a sales guy. Holy crap.
So yeah, so it's a little bit goofy, and
no, that's awesome, man. You know, there's it's the same thing. I'm looking at site pages, and I'm thinking about like, how can we make revenue here? How we can generate interest there? I can move traffic from one place to another more readily. And you know, what I've done is and I spent 2 years doing this, sitting side by side with the developers, sitting down and saying, okay, how do we get a person where he wants to get to? They come onto the site and they say, I want to get the rules for table tennis. How do I get there fast enough for them without losing interest?
And that's so key. You're absolutely right. Because Active was, you know, it took them a while, but they finally figured it out. They're like, you know, because the tech guys were all doing all the, this is how you map it. And I'm like, no. And not me, just in general, but a lot of us were like, no, you got to get the coaches, the people out in that real world that, you know, how do they matriculate between different things? How do they, you know, it's not the tech guy who, I know a JavaScript. I know it's on down the right-hand corner.
Right. Like, and then you end up with like a Chinese menu. It's like 5,000 things on a page. Like, that's not going to help.
And that's not going to work. And they're gone, and you don't have enough time to keep them.
Yeah. So we actually broke down, if you see the site, we broke it down to two nav lines. We have one nav line for what did you come here to do outside of your sports. So is it a parents portal? Is it the wellness portal? Did you come here to just buy shit? What are you there for? And then the other line is really for the sports side of things. What sport did I come here to look at? And it's like, these are the sports that I already told you that I liked when I signed up. And these are all the other sports. And if I'm interested in these top 5 sports, ping pong. Okay, rules. Okay. And then you go from there. Or I want to talk to the Olympian in luge or whatever. And, you know, you say luge and, you know, talk to the top guy. And then right up on the top, you have the MVP for that sport. So up there is the ambassador, which is usually the Olympian. And you go click and you talk to him. It's a really amazing model, but within 3 clicks, you're there.
Right. And the athletes, you know, obviously you're dealing with, you know, not the big revenue generating sports. So are the athletes doing this for free right now, or how? Or
I don't know what's going to happen now that it's a year out for the summer sports. Right. I don't think they have much to do. I mean, they were all, you know, the problem with a lot of sports, you know, they're peaking right at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of a sudden it's a year later. They got to start over. They basically have to say, okay, instead of I'm an Olympian triathlon person, I'm not going to do 4 hours a day of training. I'm going to do 2 and work up again.
It's all build up.
Yeah, exactly. So they have to start over. But in the meantime, they got to find a way to support themselves. So I don't know. I've been talking to the ACES program there. They love us. Do you know what those guys, the Athlete Career and Education group?
Through the USOC or
Yeah,
yeah, what's it called? USO. Now they've ended.
USOPT.
Yeah.
Paralympic. And I'm grooving with that because the Paralympic people love us.
Well, I mean, seriously, right? Exactly.
And so I love the fact that I don't know why they do the Paralympics after the regular Olympics.
I would do it before as well.
It doesn't make sense because you want to cut your teeth. You want to make sure the facility's ready, that it all works, and then you go and get the big league steps in.
Well, and it's funny. We're symbiotic on that. I'm like, not only from the event side of the business, running around the country doing events, is like, yeah, you got to test. This is how you can do it, but then it's also like, that minor league sports, coming to. Yeah. I don't want to call it minor league because they're tremendous athletes, but it's basically, hey, it's the JV game before the varsity game, and I always was like, because having done some Olympic stuff and represented athletes, and not on the Paralympic side, but it's like nobody stays for the Paralympics unless you're a family friend. There's nobody. And this way you get an extra 2 weeks of sales, marketing, advertising. The networks can really have some human interest. I mean, because after the fact, everybody's like, out of mind, out of sight, unless you have some kind of connection with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm like an Ivy League guy, but I'm like, wonder who's figuring this stuff out,
Doesn't make any sense. And I don't know who actually pushes those buttons. Who is the IOC saying, okay, you got to do that after that, or it doesn't make any sense. But the IOC is a bunch of morons anyway. They're all out for themselves. So did you, when you were dealing with rugby, did you hear what happened to make rugby the next IOC sport?
So
I want to see if you had the same story that I heard.
I got kicked out of the rugby office. They're like,
I can't talk to you then, man.
No, because I went to them back when we were doing arena rugby, and I'm like, look, this is your game. I am just a marketing and sales guy. I have an idea to promote your game. I'm going to make your sport, and I'm like, I truly think it's going to be bigger than your sport, outdoor. And I didn't say that to their face, obviously. I was very respectful, obviously. And we had the guy at gosh, I can't think of his name right now, from the Cal Berkeley and Stanford guys, and they were like, look, this is crazy enough to work. He goes, the sevens is a game. I mean, they play sevens all across the world, right?
Sure.
Anyway, yeah. So I think it was Nigel or Neville or somebody.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, they're like, no, we're not going to support you. We're not going to sanction you. I'm like, okay. But I said, and he goes, you can't use our players. I'm like, well, this is still America. I mean, you don't. It's not the UFC where you own your players. I mean, they play for anybody.
Or the NFL or one of those.
Yeah,
guys.
I'm like, and it's funny because I ended up getting 5 of the USA Eagle guys playing in my thing. Wow. I paid them nothing. I paid them $150 in travel expenses to come and play, and they were like, "This is the greatest thing." We want to be supportive, and so me, I put them on my cover, my posters. USA Eagle. Anyway, they were not very helpful, so. Yeah. I kind of bypassed them because they're like, well, you don't have a federation. Well, I did. I call it the World Arena Rugby Federation.
Yeah,
my players are going to get. I got an insurance company that'll back me. The players are covered. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not? This is America. This is what's the great thing about living in this country. They're like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, I did.
Just did. Sorry.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they fired all of rugby. They say rugby's gone.
Yeah, but then they did, because I think then they try to do it like a little bit like soccer, like MLS. They created their own like marketing agency that was taking money from the, and it was like paying themselves, and it was weird. And I was like, and I just stayed away. A good friend of mine is Dave Newey. I don't know if you ever that name. Dave was a Australian rugby guy, and he.
I think it's Rodger Neville. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. That's gonna bug me. Okay, so I'm sorry.
I thought it was Nigel Melville.
Yeah, it is. It's something like that. Yeah.
But I don't know where they're at right now. I don't, I know there was a big shakeup, but that's politics, and I'm just like, I don't, I'm pretty black and white. I'm like, hey, let's all make some money. Let's grow the sport, and that's the simplistic way to do it. And I don't need to wear a blazer with my logo on it, to walk around the location, or have someone bow to me or kiss my rings. I'm like, So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. But have you worked with those guys at all, or?
Yeah, I had a lot of conversation with rugby, and they've moved around twice now since I started talking to them like 8 years ago.
Right.
And so I haven't talked to the new crowd yet. Last time I talked to them was about 2-3 years ago before all that shit happened. But I stay in touch with them, with a couple of the guys there, and they're still there. The guys who are working behind the scenes, not the top guys.
Right.
And they're still there and still doing their thing. But rugby became an Olympic sport last time around.
It was.
And I understand that it was a yellow envelope with $10 million in it.
I don't disagree. I don't. Yep.
Yeah. And what really pisses me off is I play a much better sport. People don't lose their ears and their noses in it. And it's, squash is such an amazing sport, and it's played all around the world.
But wasn't squash part of the Olympics at one point?
Nope.
Never.
They're one of the trophy games, but they're not played in the main Olympics.
Yeah,
so,
and it's a sport. It's like half the battle was you can't get that many teams and the time for that many players, but that's a one or two per like tennis. I mean, you can still play that sport pretty quickly in a certain period of time.
Yeah, well, it's like 45 minutes is the match.
Right.
And they've been trying to work out. It's between half an hour and maybe an hour and 15. You can't really go further than that without like dying. Right. It's a hard sport, and so really you have a very good time frame. It's the problem I think is that it's too small a stadium. You can't have more than like 2,000 people around the court
to watch it, right?
So I think really that's really more the problem. You can't put it in the middle of an ice skating rink and have 10,000, 20,000 people watch the same match.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's probably what's holding them back. So, and why baseball is now being considered as one of the things they can do. But that the sports they're taking on are like sports, like breakdancing.
I saw that some and I was like, oh well, somebody's trying to think a little bit outside the box. But I'm like, there are a lot of other sports that have been around for a lot longer that are traditional that are played worldwide. And,
exactly. It's not still in LA only or Japan. Right. So it's just one of those things. I don't understand. I don't think there's any rhyme to it. I think it all comes down to their self-interest over at the IOC, over in Lausanne. And it's like, I don't get it. I'm trying to, I just hope that someday they, it becomes more democratic and more open. And what's actually going on.
And, kind of my philosophy is someone else will do it. And, I always thought about it. I'm like, when we were doing all these weekend warriors, we had pitched a couple of concepts of doing small-sided Olympics. Yeah. Taking all the big sports, right? And it's funny because you see a lot of different models now. Like FIBA has adapted the game called 3X, 3-on-3 basketball, and there's world rankings. Well, it was just a hoop it up. That was a playground model, right?
Yeah.
So Terry Murphy, who used to own the company, we were always kicked around this big. He had his whiteboard in his office, and we're like, rugby 7s, basketball 3, tennis 1, 2, and we did, we worked with you. So you're like, you don't have the expense of all the travel and the teams and everything. You could create your own and create your own rules, which at the time, that's why the Arena Football League was successful, because they had a patent on the rules.
Right.
And then when that patent expired, now you see 5 or 6 different indoor leagues across the country, and there's no rhyme or reason. They're going bankrupt, and so anyway, we were always like, and I came from the sports festival world where we did everything from bowling to ping pong or table tennis to track and field. And it was, we even thought with track and field, we're like, well, let's do a 40-yard dash. Let's do a, something, as opposed to the 100 meters, let's do a 40 meter. Let's, instead of doing a decathlon, we'll do some kind of, jump over, almost like a goofy, ninja warrior. I mean, we were thinking about all this stuff, and I'm like, and until somebody does it, but you have to have some big bucks, obviously, if you want to do it at a national level, but somebody will do it. Somebody will figure something out. Yeah,
I think there's going to be probably some kind of a melding between like a steeplechase and Ninja Warriors.
And I mean, when I was at Active, we did Muddy Buddies, right? And I wish I was smarter at the time. Muddy Buddies was at Camp Pendleton out in Oceanside, and it was team races over walls and mud, and you're crawling through barbed wire, and fast forward 10 years, like Spartan race. I'm like, oh my God, why didn't we just take that race that we had?
Yeah. And the Tough Mudder. Tough Mudder is what they're doing now.
The Tough Mudder knows, and I'm like, the hell race, through the desert. And we're like, all that shit existed. Nobody just monetize it or
Yeah, they couldn't put it together in a package.
right.
Yeah.
And we were stupid because we were representing Iron Man. We were there on the kind of the cusp of, Xterra. And I don't know if you ever heard what Xterra is.
Yeah, of course.
Xterra was the Iron Man, but it was off road. It was a rough swim and, a mountain bike, and Tom Kiley's still a good buddy of mine. He ended up selling that company for, quite a bit of money. So
yeah.
One of these days, man.
Yeah. Well, what I like is that, what we're thinking about, putting this all together with the lower profile sports. I call them lower profile because, some of them do make money, but they're over here, the low profile, like USATF, the track and field. That, you see that one weekend a year on TV. The rest of the time, it's all off.
Yep.
So I just call it the low profiles over here, and but they're not overseas, man. I have 80% of the population we have already is from overseas. And
really?
Yeah, and that's we're not even marketing whatsoever. We don't even want people on the site right now until we rebuild it.
Right.
And but we have it open because people are still using it. And so I'm just we're sitting back, but all the people that we have coming on the site are people from India, from England, from Australia, and it's just because their friends say, hey, there's something, there's some good stuff up on the squash portal or whatever.
Huh.
So.
Yeah, well, I like it. I like the spaceship plane. I'm always kind of one of these, I got my buddies, I'm not knocking the Ivy League schools, but, they went to the, the upper echelon schools. They work for the NFL, the NBA, and I call them like pharmaceutical reps, right? They take orders. Where I'm the guy in the street pounding on the door with arena rugby, or arena football.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta go in the back door.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not paying the cover charge. I figured out how to get, slide the bouncer in the back, let me in his back door. So,
yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, you're getting 80% of the business, and they're getting 20% of the business. So
exactly. So I'm like, it's good, and I do like what you're doing, and then if I could help you in any way or be part of your group moving forward, or how we can figure out some, I do see a lot of different verticals and different ways to kind of, I'm not your typical kind of box guys, if you can kind of imagine. So
I don't think any of our guys are box guys. Obviously we have people who work for NHL and NFL and NBA, but yeah. I think they're all sort of out of the box. They're all thinking like, how do we take this to a level that it hasn't been touched yet, and that we can really, connect with the kids coming up and make that their lifetime place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's really exciting is that by doing a 360, saying, okay, every single thing that you need is available in one place for your sport, and then just have the top people come on and curate. So instead of needing like 1 million people to say what they want, we have the top 100 people saying this is what each one of these sports needs. And we just build containers for each one of the stuff, like rules. They know where to go for the rules. They know where to go for the venues. They know where to go for the equipment. They know what equipment they're sponsored by.
Right.
And so they can do all that kind of stuff just from the top and, set it all up. And after that, they want to know the blogs and the news and all that kind of stuff. So that's all sort of
and it's interesting because another buddy of mine's trying to launch a company, and he's not having much success in it anyway. It's kind of like Zillow, Zillow for house hunting. This is Zillow for sports, right? Zillow, you could, like for example, squash for Zillow. I mean, it's basically, hey, you put in a zip code, there's a squash court, there's a, a tournament going on. So I like it. And when I first saw it, I was like, man, he's trying to do too much to too many people. And that's always a little bit of a kilter. But if you're saying, hey, I'm going to be finite in the beginning, like I think you should is, hey, let's get the, I'll call non-revenue or, little less popular sports. If you can get all of them in your kind of your base, I have my numbers. I've got my numbers, so I don't have to worry. And then, eventually the bigger boys will come play with us because they'll, well, how did you get on that? And if you show them a revenue model with selling sporting goods and, team apparel and, I can't tell you, logoed apparel, team headbands and things of that nature. Every, it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but if you can sell, something,
it adds up.
1 million pieces of something, it's always 1 million pieces, no matter what.
That's my discussion with the governing bodies has been, listen, you got 7 million people playing badminton and you got 20,000 people. Instead of getting the $200,000 of revenue from your people, go out and get $1 from each one of the 7 million people out there.
Right.
And, they're slowly but surely they come around. But I say, listen, if you can give me, if you refer me John Smith, and John Smith is playing badminton, he's probably playing other sports besides, if you bring him in, you're going to get 15% of the ad revenue whenever he comes on to look at any sport. So bring him in, and you're going to get $1 a year per that person.
Right, and you're going to have a model that they're going to opt in, so it's not like they're selling you the name and numbers. So I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Get around it.
Yeah.
I have been pretty good at building a kind of a benefits analysis, best case scenario for different sports leagues. So if you want me to help you out a little bit on that side, I'd be happy to assist you there, because I kind of find my ability to look outside the norm and pretty good. So I think like table tennis, archery. I mean, like let's say it's bear are and I'll talk to the archery association, and they'll say, oh, I get $50,000 a year from bear archery. Like, yeah, well, if you have 2 million people signed up and you got $1 for a fundraising campaign, what do you and it's
exactly.
got 6 other products in it that can make you another 2% off the sale of it. I'm like, hello. Yeah. So I hear you, and I think you can do the same. And I don't know, it's a little bit crazy thought, but I would also approach I don't want to call them, they might be nonprofit associations, but like for example, archery, right?
Oh yeah, USA Archery is one of my top prospects.
It's huge. It's big.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say huge. It's big, right? But if you went to the National Archery Association or the individual states that support archery and hunting, hell, I mean, I just was talking to a group out of Ohio. They have 5 million people, and they protect they're not environmental, but it's called the Sportsman Alliance, and they fight legislation. They a little place in Ohio, they fight laws in Maine about bear hunting. Their PETA's their #1 competitor, right? But but they're not like gun carrying crazy NRA people. They're like hey, because you hunt deer, it manages the whole wildlife process. You just can't have deer, So I mean, there is a science behind it, but they've got and I was talking to them, I'm like, they don't even do a fundraising campaign. I'm like, get them to pay $5, you know what? And so anyway, if you went US Archery, you could then build the audience down another level of going all these other organizations that hunt with archery. And you're like, hey, archery, now you're helping each other out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they don't think down to the community. They're like, I'll catch the elites when they get up here, but everyone else goes about their own business.
I got to worry about my national event in Kansas City, and
yeah,
no one's trying to build, Tom, Dick, and Harry in, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all these other Sportsman Alliance have teaching programs because that's their kid. They know the kids are the future, so they do a hunter adopted. You can now I think you can hunt when you're 12 in Ohio if you have a certificate of you go through this certificate. So
yeah, exactly.
And I've always been pretty good at being like, let's create our own association. Let's,
yeah.
Perception versus reality, right? I'll charge a kid $5 and I'll use a platform of US Archery, I'll call it Archery Worldwide, So I'm into it. I'd like to help you out, and because I just kind of got my bells all turning in my head here.
Good. That's what I want, man. That's awesome. Well, I think that there's obviously a place for you in what we're doing. I think that as far as where you are, you're in Pennsylvania. That's a good place. We have people who are working all over this area, so that's great.
Yeah.
Most of it's remote, and it sounds to me like I see you as on the advisory board, and then taking care of these projects as they come up, and big picture kind of stuff as well, so we can take it and run with it.
Yeah, and I've been with organizations where there are a lot of chief and not a lot of Indians.
I know, I hate that.
Ironically, I can be a chief, but I also am an Indian because I know if you don't have anything to manage, you're not going to be a chief for much longer. So you got
exactly.
and being working with the smaller leagues and things that I've had to wear multiple hats, right? I've done the dirty work. So, but I also see the bigger picture. I would also, if you do have I don't know if you have a business plan or
I'll send them to you. I'll send you all the docs. I have a good intro letter and everything else.
Oh, good. Yeah. Because there are
a video online on YouTube. So
yeah, because I also have a pretty good connection in the polo world. So.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Like the real polo, not water polo.
Oh, like the equestrian, the I would say the expensive polo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and, that's cool. That's I love watching it, and there's some guys up in Saratoga that are involved in that, but I don't know any really big people in polo.
Yeah, and actually, I know the guys that own the polo grounds in Saratoga. They were one of my clients in the past because I didn't do polo events, but I brought again Audi, a sponsor, put a car on a polo field.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of, most people say, hey, where I look at a demographic or a sociographic or a psychographic, like an Audi, like, okay, Audi, yeah, you like polo, but yeah, you can do the national and the Gold Cup, and you're going to be there with 10 other sponsors. But wouldn't you like to have your car, 4 weeks every summer at the Saratoga Polo Grounds, at the Palm Beach Polo Grounds, and you really get into the community, and it's not just you do test drives, you dive in with the local. So mine always is back to the grassroots, and at the end of the day, it's about selling more cars or selling more shit to more people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So a little bit different thinking. So, all right, brother, I will take a look at your site too. And then what I'll do is, probably send me some of your stuff. I'll put a little bit of a thought behind it and say, hey, I can help you out, in these 2 areas, 4 areas. And, maybe I don't know about your funding sources or anything to that nature yet, but maybe we can get to some kind of an agreement together where we can, hopefully help each other. I've been in the media side of the business for sales. So, sometimes you got to kill what you eat, before you get paid.
That's true. Yeah, and we're doing that. It's basically, we call it a success fee. And that's the concept.
I like that one. That one's good.
Well, that's what it is,
Yeah.
It's, when you succeed, you make money. And we do. We have a straight out contract for that. It's easy.
All right. Very cool. Well, look forward to it. Now, I looked at your site. Now, you are redoing it, right? Is that your...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This was built on Ruby on Rails. It was built by a guy who has done a bunch of corporate sites.
Yeah.
And it looks it. It feels corporate. It feels very almost too straightforward. And that's going to get more creative. Obviously, a lot of JavaScript is going to be built on ASP.NET. We're going to use a different database, and it'll be a lot more active when we get done.
Right.
And
when you went on the win, what did you have troubles with?
Oh, just the straight nav bar. Like the words were sort of crowding on each other.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Because I know they spent some money to redo it or repage it or reskin it, and they, it's always
like they hit the wrap test button, and wrap text will do that. It'll take whatever's on this line and push it down there if it's given too tight a thing.
Huh. Okay.
So I mean, it's an easy thing. It's a toggle.
Yeah.
I've used it myself.
Okay. All right. I'll get back to those guys because because everybody thinks their website's the best. I'm like,
yeah. No, I'm like the most humble guy when it comes to that. Okay, I know it's bad, and I got some great ideas for the next level, but we're at the point now where I don't even want to ask people onto it. Especially, we're working really hard on the esports space.
Okay.
We had to decide what a sport is in the first place, so we worked it out so that esports fit in that umbrella. But we're in the middle of winning this big challenge from Hype Sports Innovation over in the UK. And they're one of the big investors in sports, and we're finally one of the top 5, so we're there.
For UB Sports, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and one of the questions we had 2 weeks ago, we had a big conference call with a couple of the big esports players, and they're right on top of their sports, and they're saying what we really need is a great player that will cut down lag, cut down latency, and be a lot more efficient both on the mobile side and also for PCs and Macs. And I'm thinking, here I am, we're in the middle of raising $5 million, and I only have use for actually $2 million. So that leaves $3 million that I could really develop the shit out of that and be the place for 125 million people. So that's that got my wheels going.
Yeah, interesting, because there's a capital fund out of Philadelphia it's called I think it's 17 or 76. Anyway, Ryan Howard.
76 Capital, yeah.
76 Capital. I don't know if you pitched. You got some contests too coming up here. But.
Yeah, I haven't looked at their contests recently, but I met a couple of the big guys in there. Actually,
okay.
A woman and a guy, and but they like looking at revenue generating companies, and we weren't doing that yet. So
no, because I had another guy that went into it, and they were like, they thought it was a really good idea, but they wanted someone with a little bit of a P&L on it.
Too early, right? Just so I said, okay, we'll come back to you for our A round.
Yeah.
The problem is that Hype already wants our A round. So it's a good problem to have.
It's nice to be wanted sometimes.
Yeah, I always my cliche is you can either invest in a pier or a bridge, and I'll take a bridge anytime.
Yeah,
So
that's funny.
so that's knowing that we have the A round, it makes it a lot more comfortable to be in
Right.
the seat.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'll
cool.
send you the stuff.
Yeah. My God, I didn't know what time it was. We just got called here. I appreciate all your time.
Yeah, man.
Like you got a nice day up there in Long Island, so
Yeah, I'm gonna get out and get a bike ride in before we're having these afternoon thunderstorms. So I'm trying to get out before that.
same here. It's pretty hit and miss out here, so
Yeah.
look forward to it, man. I
Yeah, it's
appreciate
great
your
talking to
time,
you.
and I think I think I'm getting some good vibes, so I think
Great.
something will come out of it.
Excellent, man. Great to hear it.
All right, Greg, you got it,
Talk to
bud.
you later.
You got it.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.